Today, we're going to be looking at the cut content of Smash Remix. The creator and project leader for Smash Remix is Smashfather. This mod began when he had a low skill set for modding Nintendo 64 games. He reached out to a well-known modder in the community, Frey. Frey has incredible knowledge of the game and helped out with a mod that came out years prior to Smash Remix called 19XX Tournament Edition. In tournaments using the vanilla game, you wouldn't be able to access stages like Final Destination. But with this mod, you'd be able to access Final Destination and Battlefield, and had a bunch more quality of life improvements. Smash Remix has some features that were taken directly from 19XX TE, like being able to cycle through character colors with left and right C buttons. A majority of the people that worked on 19XX TE went on to work on Smash Remix also. Frey helped Smashfather a great deal in the early days of Smash Remix, but he wouldn't become a member of the team until much later. During the early formative periods of the development, they had a lot of ideas and different viewpoints on what could or couldn't work, and a team much more in flux. Smashfather's initial thoughts on what the mod would be ended up changing a great deal over time. The team greatly improved on their limited capabilities and scope. They narrowed in on what they wanted as a team and what Remix was. But at the beginning, they experimented a lot and were more disorganized. For a while, both development and playtesting were publicly available. For a lot of reasons, this wasn't doable. It proved distracting, frustrating, and definitely hindered the surprise. One of the things they put together during that time was a list of possible characters. This list didn't really matter and was only created so that they'd stop getting questions about it, but fans still mentioned that list from time to time, thinking it to still be relevant when it really isn't. However, they did work on a few of the characters on that list at one point. Here's a few characters off that list as well as some others. Meowth. Meowth was rigged and was basically being created by one person who ultimately didn't stick with the team. There was no interest by anyone else on the team to continue with him. However, it did lead to the creation of this legendary image. Donkey Kong Jr. This one really could have happened, but it just slipped by. He had animations, a rigged model, and attributes. The animations actually stayed in Remix source code for quite a long time, and were connected to his neutral special, Tennis Serve. You can see a rough draft of how the neutral special Tennis Serve might have worked in this video. He also had a down smash and an up air headbutt. They even had a victory theme made for Donkey Kong Jr. He also had art made in the same style as the official characters. Ultimately, they shifted focus to Wario and Dark Samus based on the interest and availability of the team. Though Smashfather loved this character, at the time, he couldn't code well enough to make it work, and by the time he could code well enough, it didn't make sense anymore. Boshi. Boshi never really went anywhere and was based solely on the fact that Retro64, who would go on to be a key contributor, had made a model which is still available on Models Resources. This model was actually cleaned up to work better in Smash Remix, as you can see here. If they never advanced past simple clones, he may have happened. This model still looks great, but at this time they were too advanced for Boshi to make sense anymore. Pichu. Pichu was attempted very roughly, but the animation simply did not transfer well from Pikachu. As you can see here, he looks a bit nightmarish. The whole point of this character, like Pichu, is the ease of using existing assets. This wasn't possible because every animation would need to be redone from Pikachu to accommodate Pichu's different proportions. There are also some rigging challenges they weren't ready for. For those of you that don't know, rigging is the process by which models are connected to a skeleton, in which an animator would use to create the movement. Raichu. Raichu is another one that Smashfather feels somewhat sad on, especially with his amazing beret. This was a modification of the very model that the lead artist Soap made before the project even began, and is what initially made Smashfather reach out to Soap. It was canned for reasons similar to Pichu, but mostly just his tail needing animations. Otherwise, the model looked pretty good. Raichu would have required a lot of custom animations, and animating a tail like Raichu's was beyond the capability of the team at the time. Waluigi. Waluigi was attempted in the early days, but suffered from rigging and animation issues. These issues were beyond the scope of the team at the time. This is partly because of the editor that they were using, the GoldenEye editor. Although this editor started out with GoldenEye, it got expanded to include more games like Perfect Dark, Diddy Kong Racing, Mickey Speedway USA, Jet Force Gemini, Pokemon Snap, and lastly, Super Smash Bros. This editor was made by Subdre, and if he didn't add Smash 64 to his editor, Smash Remix would not exist. At the time of Waluigi's development, the GoldenEye editor was used mainly for importing stages. Importing Super Smash Bros. Characters would become a feature of the editor later, so at the time they were required to email Subdrake the characters and he would import them for the team. Mario and Luigi's animations didn't quite work with his lanky frame, and the desire to add him quickly waned, so he fell by the wayside. Sorry, Waluigi fans. Meta Knight. Meta Knight was rigged, but the teammate who wanted to make him was never consistent enough to go anywhere with the animations. Not to mention, they didn't really have the skill to code his all-unique specials at the time. Mach Rider. Mach Rider was modeled, but there was never much of a vision for him or her besides being a Falcon clone. So this one just never happened. Bomberman. Another one that was modeled, but there was never much of a vision. Game & Watch. This one actually could have happened. There were challenges with the 2D look on console, but at this point, they could overcome them. It never felt like a particularly interesting pick to the team, so they never got rolling on it. Vaporeon. This one could have been cool. They had rigged a model and made an idle animation. This was obviously inspired by Super Smash Land, and would have been heavily inspired by its evolution in Rivals Ether, or Kane. The derivative nature of the vision, matched with the odd character choice and overrepresented series, meant the team never got interested enough on this one. Hero. Only one person on the team ever really wanted Hero to happen, and they never stuck with it enough for anyone to feel like putting in the work. This one never really had a chance at all. A few animations and a rig were made. The amount of work on these was really quite small compared to what all would have needed to go in. Most were just experiments that helped the team learn, so don't feel like you lost too much with these. You don't really realize the incredible amount of work a character requires until you make one, especially when you raise your standards to the degree they have at this point. They barely scratched the surface on this crew of characters, which were basically all just rigged models. Animations and coding are way more labor intensive. Now let's check out some character changes. Dr. Mario. At one point, they considered adding Dr. Mario's melee style forward smash, but ultimately decided against it. Here's one of the animations that were made. Wario. Wario used to have a down air that was a spike. Conker. Conker evolved a lot over his creation. Smash Father was concerned about Conker's development for a while. Here's a few things they cut. Conker used to have an air fan based tail attack, a rocket launcher, a brick attack up smash, and a different jab attack. Dark Samus. Dark Samus had a new neutral and up special that were experimented with. The up special would allow Dark Samus to rise upwards in a player's influence direction and then crash downwards. The neutral special would have Samus fire missiles similar to the ones used in Melee onwards for Samus's forward special. They experimented, but ultimately they decided that it didn't seem worth it for a clone character made so long ago. Sonic. Sonic's old model. You got a model way early in development, long before he was really plausible. This older model allowed Sonic to get more Shadow-style costumes. This was abandoned for later models, as it was too limiting for the texture palette. Ganondorf. Ganondorf used to have a different forward air. Falco. Falco actually predates Remix. There was a Fox moveset mod made by Nick Mang and Frey. This mod changed Fox moveset to be more similar to Falco's. Then, a modder named Roja implemented the Falco model into the game. This mod had no extra moves though, so this was pretty much just a Fox reskin. These two mods were combined together to have the moveset and the model. This mod was known as Super Smash Bird. This mod became mildly popular in the community. In the reveal trailer for Falco, this mod and model are actually referenced.
Jeez Louise, what is that?
After Roja's Falco mod, they went on and released a trailer for a game called Smash Revolution. This ROM hack contained an updated Falco model, but this was never publicly available. After Smash Revolution, Roja made a trailer for Smash Overload. This ROM hack was put behind a $10,000 Kickstarter paywall. I made a video about this old Kickstarter on my own channel, Snooplax. Long story short though, the Kickstarter never got funded, and a lot of people in the community thought this was a complete scam. After this Kickstarter, Roja left the internet and hasn't been heard since. Now with all that backstory out of the way, let's look at Falco's actual cut content. This is the early cut model that was going to be used in Remix. This model was replaced though by the final model that you see here. King DDD. This is DDD's old model. DDD originally was planned to have a more superstar-esque look, but upon reflection, the team decided they should be more celebratory of the 64 era. This decision was contentious. Lucas. At one point, they attempted making Lucas look more like his Earthbound 64 version. This was ultimately abandoned because Smash Father thought it looked a bit mortifying and it would have required a complete rework of his animations. This is what Lucas's entry animation could have been. Banjo. The team experimented with giving Banjo the talent shot for his run animation. However, it didn't look right and looked even worse transitioning to other animations, so they ultimately went against it. Now for the cut stages. Maze Woods. One of the first designs for a Wario stage, very roughly done here, never even imported into Smash 64 for obvious reasons. Moray Towers. This one was cool, but the way the clippings worked was too glitchy. Its files existed in Smash Remix source for quite some time. Uncanny Mansion. Despite everything about this stage, it almost made it in. The team decided to remove this one. The Horror Manor music design for it lived on though. Odyssey. Prior to Smash Remix, the aforementioned GoldenEye editor came out. This tool made it very easy to make single-stage mods for Super Smash Bros. When this tool came out, I made a bunch of single-stage mods. A majority of these mods, though, were not suitable for Smash Remix. The 3 stages that did interest Smash Father was Bowser Stadium, Delfino Plaza, and Odyssey. These stages weren't just ready to be put in Smash Remix, though. Smash Remix has a bunch of guidelines for stages, like the way the blast zone should be, the polygon count to reduce lag, among other things. I was able to edit Bowser Stadium and Delfino Plaza to be in the game, but the same can't be said for Odyssey. The try count for Odyssey was far too high. It had a try count of around 2,400, and to be even considered for Smash Remix, that would have to get down to less than 600. Although this would have been possible, I did not possess the skill set to do this, so this stage was ultimately cut. Wario's Castle. This stage was fully functional, but the aesthetic didn't seem particularly good. Bowser's Road. This was modeled, but never actually imported. Could have possibly worked, but would have needed a lot more than this. Moonside. Smash Father recalls this as a stinker from the early days. Unsurprisingly, no one leapt at the chance to add this one, and it was silently left behind. It was imported into Super Smash Bros., but no clippings were ever made. Clippings are the collisions for walls, floors, and ceilings. Smash Father thinks the theory might have been to make some sort of Saffron clone that was more competitive. The pencils in between the gaps were something that has stuck with Smash Father through the years, as he thought they looked so bad, and the artist who made this model turned out to be so much better than this. Clock Tower. This one had some graphical glitches and basically was just forgotten about. Mirror Room. It failed for technical reasons. Models would look bizarre when flipped, and it would be quite laggy. Mario Bros. This one had some potential, but there wasn't a big interest in coding it in. Obviously, it would be like the one that appears in the later Smash games, where you could walk to one side and appear on the other. You'd also want bad guys to appear and be interactable. It was seen as a bit of a heavy lift coding stage with a low reward, so it was scrapped. LTC. They actually made a custom Pokemon Stadium mod for Low Tide City. Low Tide City was on track to be the first major Smash 64 event to be strictly Smash Remix. However, the stage never saw the light of day as the tournament was caught under a dragnet with other more Nintendo threatening mods. So that tournament was forced to be cancelled, but luckily no other tournament has had issues before or since with Remix. Bomberman stages. There are Bomberman fans on the team and they wanted to make a Bomberman stage, but it just never felt strong enough. This was one of the attempts, and this was another, and another. Big Boo's Haunt. Originally, the stage had a very different layout that the team just didn't love. Eventually, it was completely redone by another stage designer. Additionally, they included actual 3D boos that would fly by, but this could be confusing and distracting to players, so it was removed. Blocked Fort. Who could forget Blocked Fort, a classic from Mario Kart 64? They didn't feel like the stage would look or play well, so it was scrapped. Jet Force Gemini stage. There were a few options for Jet Force Gemini, and this was one of them. Just wasn't as fun as Rithessa, nor did it look as good. Donkey Kong Jr. Speaking of Donkey Kong Jr., he had a stage design that even had music made by Coffee. However, since Donkey Kong Jr. never came to be, and the stage wasn't super inspired, it was cut. Random DK stages. In the very early days, one teammate made a poll for which of 3 DK stages he should make for Remix. After the poll, he decided he would make all 3 anyways. He ultimately decided to make none of them. Here is an image of one of them. Doesn't actually look too bad. Autumn Dreamland. They once envisioned a version of Dreamland that would change seasons over a match and just experiment with different seasons besides winter, but it never came to fruition. Spirit Temple stage. Smash Father actually designed the stage himself. It was intended to be included with the original release of Ganondorf, but they struggled to get it work in Remix, so it never made it in. Saffron City. There's a Saffron City stage made to look like this. Smashfather has no recollection of this. Not used for obvious reasons. Race to the Finish 2. This originally had a much different, much lengthier layout with multiple paths. It just wasn't that fun. Mount DDD. Used to look much different. I think it looks much better now. Emerald Coast. They have a lot of Sonic fans on the team, but they had to restrain themselves by not adding 100 Sonic stages. One of the possibilities was Emerald Coast, of which 2 versions were modeled. Valley of Bowser. Here's a mock-up of Valley of Bowser stage that they ultimately did not pursue. Bowser's Keep. If you think Bowser's Keep runs slow now, you should have seen it when they had a fully modeled Xer in the stage 2. Kazmilli. This stage was fully designed and completed, but they just didn't like the look of it, so it evolved into Osohe. And lastly, the beta combo counter. So that's it for the cut content of Smash Remix. Some of this cut content will be made available for download on the Nintendo 64 Vault. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic day.